Okay, and we're back. Um, as predicted, Donald Trump is late for the press conference. Obviously, world reaction is coming in. Um, I'm running the BBC feed here, live stream. Um, Not much news. Here is an image of Maduro on board the USS Iwo Jima. Obviously, he is handcuffed, blindfolded. I'm probably he did not expect this today, seeing as by all reports he was meeting with a Chinese delegation just before, like 2 hours before U.S. forces arrived. A little bit earlier, Donald Trump had mentioned that some service members were injured. A helicopter was damaged but recovered, but no fatalities. Venezuela media is indicating that some civilians were injured or killed, all unverified at this time. But we really just can't kind of downplay just how this action by the United States is going to impact things. So the biggest consumer of Venezuelan oil is China. China has built a refinery capable of refining Venezuelan oil. Previous to that refinery, the only refinery capable of doing refining Venezuelan oil was in Louisiana, so it was U.S. So we even when they nationalized the oil fields and kicked the U.S. oil companies out, the U.S. still pretty much had a lock on Venezuelan oil. China now gets about 80% of Venezuela's oil. So the idea that there will be no repercussions from this is kind of a fantasy. At a minimum, given the military drills that China conducted last week around Taiwan, you can almost guarantee that China is going to try and extract some sort of something from the United States and the Trump administration in regards to Taiwan. So if you live in Taiwan, this probably is not good news for you. I've seen online some speculation that Cuba is next. I highly doubt that. While it sounds good, and obviously I think maybe the Trump administration would definitely want, some people in the Trump administration, probably Rubio and a few others, would definitely want to do something about Cuba. At the end of the day, Trump is very transactional. And I think that is something that other nations have figured out about him, but maybe other political parties in the United States have not, is that, just feed his ego. Feed his ego and you get what you want. Give him a fake prize, give him some type of trinket or trophy, but ultimately, in order for him to take action, there has to be something that he wants. In this case, it's Venezuelan oil. Take the fig leaf off of it. That's what this is about. It has nothing to do with drugs. The drugs manufactured in Venezuela don't even really come into the United States except for maybe cocaine. And we're not doing it. Most of Venezuela's cocaine goes to Europe anyway. He has, I think the more worrying part is that he indicated on Fox News that we have to do something about Mexico and the cartels there. So I think that's probably what's next. We're 10 years into Donald Trump now. We're 10 years into this. He's not some type of 4D, 5D chess master. They always telegraph what they're going to do. They float trial balloons. They make outrageous statements and say, we were just kidding. We were just joking. We're just joshing you. We're just joshing. But then they wind up doing it. It's sort of like this action in Venezuela. It was telegraphed months ago, absolutely months ago. First with, kind of jokes like we could take over Venezuela or we could strike in Venezuela. Everybody was just like, oh, no, that would be unprecedented. What are you going to do? But that's what they wound up doing. I mean, it's a very coordinated and thought out process on rolling these types of things out. They always start with the jokes, then they move into more serious conversations. And then it becomes, well, yeah, we were joking about that, but we could actually do it. I mean, and then eventually they just do it. And that's the timeline and chain of events that we've had here. It's pretty much a process that they've done repeatedly on multiple things. I somewhat wish this was a beer, but it's, again, they're not difficult to understand. This was always, Marco Rubio has been talking about this forever. So this is not out of character for him. I think probably the bigger thing this type of action brings up is who's making the decisions. And who's putting these types of things into play. Venezuela was always a Marco Rubio project. And let's not get it twisted. I know there's a lot of people that are wringing their hands and, oh, this is an act of war, and, oh, the peace president and everything else. I frankly don't give a flying fuck about Maduro. The guy was awful. He's a dictator, murderer, thug. He totally stifled dissent. He killed the opposition. He's an awful human fucking being. And he deserves everything that he gets. I mean, bury him under. Frankly, I think the only reason here's Donald Trump. So we'll go to this. Get the audio going.
Late last night and early today, at my direction, the United States Armed Forces conducted an extraordinary military operation in the capital of Venezuela. Overwhelming American military power, air, land, and sea, was used to launch a spectacular assault. And it was an assault like people have not seen since World War II. It was a force against a heavily fortified military fortress in the heart of Caracas to bring outlaw dictator Nicolas Maduro to justice. This was one of the most stunning, effective, and powerful displays of American military might and competence in American history. And if you think about it, we've done some other good ones, like the attack on Soleimani, the attack on al-Baghdadi, and the obliteration and decimation of the Iran nuclear sites just recently in an operation known as Midnight Hammer.
What in the North Korea bullshit was that opening statement? Since World War II, does he not remember shock and awe from the Iraq War? I mean, this is that hyperbole was just fucking ridiculous.
All Venezuelan military capacities were rendered powerless as the men and women of our military, working with U.S. law enforcement, successfully captured Maduro in the dead of night. It was dark. The lights of Caracas were largely turned off due to a certain expertise that we have.
Is he fucking insane?
It was dark, and it was deadly. But captured.
He does know there's video of that shit, right? Like, it was a full moon.
Now face American justice. Maduro and Flores have been indicted in the Southern District of New York. It's Jay Clayton, for their campaign of deadly narco-terrorism against the United States and its citizens. I want to thank the men and women of our military who achieved such an extraordinary success overnight with breathtaking speed, power, precision, and competence. You rarely see anything like it. You've seen some raids in this country that didn't go so well. They were an embarrassment. If you look back to Afghanistan, or if you look back to the Jimmy Carter days, they were different days. We're a respected country again, maybe like never before. These highly trained warriors operating in collaboration with U.S. law enforcement caught them in a very ready position. They were waiting for us. They knew we had many ships out in the sea, just sort of waiting. They knew we were coming. So they were in what's called a ready position, but they were completely overwhelmed and very quickly incapacitated. If you would have seen what I saw last night, you would have been very impressed. I'm not sure that you'll ever get to see it, but it was an incredible thing to see. Not a single American service member was killed, and not a single piece of American equipment was lost. We had many helicopters, many planes, many people involved in that fight. But think of that, not one piece of military equipment was lost, not one service member was, more importantly, killed. The United States military is the strongest and most fearsome military on the planet by far, with capabilities and skills our enemies can scarcely begin to imagine. We have the best equipment anywhere in the world. There's no equipment like what we have. And you see that even if you just look at the boats. You know, we've knocked out 97% of the drugs coming in by sea. 90%. Each boat kills on average, 25,000 people. We knocked out 97%. And those drugs mostly come from a place called Venezuela. We're going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. So we don't want to be involved with having somebody else get in, and we have the same situation that we had for the last.
Is he saying that we still have forces there in Venezuela? Is he saying we're running Venezuela right now? What the fuck is he saying? Because the video on the ground does not indicate we have troops on the ground in Venezuela. Are we putting troops on the ground? What the fuck is going on here?
We want peace, liberty, and justice for the great people of Venezuela. And that includes many from Venezuela that are now living in the United States and want to go back to their country. It's their homeland. We can't take a chance that somebody else takes over Venezuela that doesn't have the good of the Venezuelan people in mind. We've had decades of that. We're not going to let that happen. We're there now, and what people don't understand, but they understand as I say this, we're there now, but we're going to stay until such time as the proper transition can take place. So we're going to stay until such time as we're going to run it essentially until such time as a proper transition can take place. As everyone knows, the oil business in Venezuela has been a bust, a total bust for a long period of time. They were pumping almost nothing by comparison to what they could have been pumping and what could have taken place. We're going to have our very large United States oil companies, the biggest anywhere in the world, go in, spend billions of dollars, fix the badly broken infrastructure, the oil infrastructure, and start making money for the country. And we are ready to stage a second and much larger attack if we need to do so. So we were prepared to do a second wave.
So are we there or not?
If
we have to do a second attack, are we not there already?
We actually assumed that a second wave would be necessary, but now it's probably not. The first wave, if you'd like to call it that, the first attack was so successful, we probably don't have to do a second, but we're prepared to do a second wave, a much bigger wave, actually. This was pinpoint, but we have a much bigger wave that probably won't have to do. This partnership of Venezuela with the United States of America, a country that everybody wants to be involved with because of what we were able to do and accomplish, will make the people of Venezuela rich, independent, and safe. And it will also make the many, many people from Venezuela that are living in the United States extremely happy. They suffered. They suffered. So much was taken from them. They're not going to suffer anymore.
Do we have troops on the
The
ground in
illegitimate dictator
Venezuela right
Maduro
now?
was the
This is like an
kingpin of a vast
unprepared
criminal
fifth grader
network
giving a book
responsible
report.
for trafficking colossal amounts of deadly and illicit drugs into the United States. As alleged in the indictment, he personally oversaw the vicious cartel known as Cartel de las Solas, which flooded our nation with lethal poison, responsible for the deaths of countless Americans, the many, many Americans, hundreds of thousands over the years of Americans died because of him. Maduro and his wife will soon face the full might of American justice and stand trial on American soil. Right now, they're on a ship they'll be heading to, ultimately, New York. And then a decision will be made, I assume, between New York and
Why New
Miami
York?
or Florida. But we have people where the overwhelming evidence of their crimes will be presented in a court of law. And I've seen it. I've seen what we have. It's both horrible and breathtaking that something like this could have been allowed to take place. For many years after his term as president of Venezuela expired, Maduro remained in power and waged a ceaseless campaign of violence, terror, and subversion against the United States of America, threatening not only our people, but the stability of the entire region. And you all saw it. In addition to trafficking gigantic amounts of illegal drugs that
And yet, for all his
inflicted
talk about that,
untold
he did not
suffering and
destabilize the
human
region.
destruction all over the country, all over, in particular, the United States. Maduro sent savage and murderous gangs, including the bloodthirsty prison gang, Tren de Aragua, to terrorize American communities nationwide. And he did indeed. They were in Colorado. They took over apartment complexes. They cut the fingers off people if they called police. They were brutal, but they're not so brutal now. And I just have to congratulate our military, Pete, and everybody, and our National Guard, because the job that they've done, whether it's in Washington, D.C., where we have a totally safe city, where it was one of the most unsafe cities anywhere in the world, frankly, and now we have no crime in Washington, D.C. We haven't had a killing. We had the terrorist attack a few weeks ago. A little bit of a different kind of a threat, but we haven't had a killing in a long period of time, 6-7 months. We used to have two, on average, 2 a week in Washington, our capital. We don't have that anymore.
Hey, old man Ramble, get
Restaurants
to
are
the
opening.
fucking point.
Everyone's happy. They're going, they're walking their daughters, they're walking their children, their wives, they walk to restaurants.
For
Restaurants
fuck's
are
sake.
opening all over
Venezuela.
Washington, D.C.
We're not talking about D.C.
So I want to
Venezuela.
thank the National Guard. I want to thank our military, and I want to thank
Someone
law
flash a
enforcement.
sign
It's been
to his
amazing. And they should
dementia-riddled
do it with
ass.
more cities. We're doing it, as you know, and we're doing it in Memphis, Tennessee right now, and crime is down. We've just sort of started a few weeks ago, but crime is down now 77%. And
What about the water pressure?
The
Let's talk
governor
about
of
water
Louisiana
pressure.
called, great person.
Everybody needs to know
And
about
he
water
wanted us
pressure
to
right now.
help
Talk
him,
about
as you know,
toilets.
in a certain very nice part of Louisiana. And we have done that. It was a rough section, and we have crime down. I understand it's down to almost nothing already after 2.5 weeks. New Orleans, it's down to almost nothing. And we've only been there for 2.5 weeks. Can't imagine why governors wouldn't want us to help. We also helped, as you know, in Chicago, and crime went down a little bit there. We did a very
Old
small
man Ramble
help
is off
because we had
script. Someone wrangle him back.
We had no working ability with the governor. The governor was a disaster, and the mayor was a disaster. But it knocked down crime. But we're pulling out of there when they need us. We'll know. You'll know. You'll be
Because when
writing
the
about
U.S.
it.
carries out a military
And
action,
likewise,
we
Los
do
Angeles, where we
definitely
saved
need an
Los
update
Angeles
on
early
crime
on,
in New Orleans.
where the head of
That's
the
what's
police
on
department
everybody's
made a
mind right now.
statement that if the federal government didn't come in, we would have lost Los Angeles. That's long after the fires. That's when they had the riots in Los Angeles. We did a great job. Got no credit for it whatsoever, but that's okay. It doesn't matter. We don't need the credit. But we'll be pulling out when they need us. They'll call, or we'll go back if we have to. We'll go back.
Sweet
But we did a
Jesus.
great job in
Motherfucker.
various cities.
Do we have troops in
But
Venezuela
the
or
place
not?
that
You
we're
said
very proud of
earlier
is
we
Washington,
control
D.C., because it's
Venezuela
our
now.
nation's
Do
capital.
we
We
have
took it
troops in
from
Venezuela?
being a crime-ridden mess
Fuck
to being
if you have
one of the
troops
safest
in Los
cities in the
Angeles or
country.
not. They shouldn't be
But
there
the
to begin
gangs
with.
that
Wrangle
they
it
sent
around, old
raped,
man.
tortured, and murdered American women and children. They were in all of the cities I mentioned, Tren de Aragua, and they were sent by Maduro to terrorize our people. And now Maduro
Maybe
will
ICE should do
never
something about that.
again be able to threaten an American citizen or anybody from Venezuela. There will no longer be threats. For years, I've highlighted the stories of those innocent Americans whose lives were so heartlessly robbed by this Venezuelan terrorist organization. Really one of the worst. One of the worst. They say the worst. Americans like
Who says?
12-year-old Jocelyn Nungari from Houston. Beautiful Jocelyn Nungari. What happened to her? They, as you know, they kidnapped, assaulted, and murdered by Tren de Aragua animals. They murdered Jocelyn and left her dead under the bridge. There was a bridge that will never be the same to so many people after seeing what happened. As I've said many times, the Maduro regime emptied out their prisons, sent their worst and most violent monsters into the United States to steal American lives. And they came from mental institutions and insane asylums. They came from prisons and jails. The reason I say both, they sound similar. Actually, prisons, a little bit more hostile, a little bit tougher. A mental institution isn't as tough as an insane asylum, but we got them both. They sent from their mental institutions. They sent from their jails, prisons. They were drug dealers. They were drug kingpins. They sent everybody bad into the United States, but no longer. And we have now a border where nobody gets through. In addition, Venezuela unilaterally seized and sold American oil,
Venezuela.
American assets, and American platforms, costing us billions and billions of dollars. They did this a while ago, but we never had a president that did anything about it. They took all of our property. It was our property. We built it. And we never had a president that decided to do anything about it. Instead, they fought wars that were 10,000 miles away. We built Venezuela oil industry with American talent, drive,
Technically,
and
we
skill.
didn't have to do anything
And
about
the
it because the
socialist
oil still came
regime
to the United States
stole
to
it
be
from
processed.
us during those
Just
previous administrations, and they stole it through force. This constituted one of the largest thefts of American property in the history of our country. Considered the largest theft of property in the history of our country.
Not true.
Massive oil infrastructure was taken like we were babies, and we didn't do anything about it. I would have done something.
Because we had the
about
processing facilities.
America
We
will
didn't have to
never
do
allow
anything about it.
foreign powers to rob our people or drive us back into and out of our own hemisphere. That's what they did. Furthermore, under the now deposed dictator Maduro, Venezuela was increasingly hosting foreign adversaries in our region and acquiring menacing offensive weapons that could threaten U.S. interests and lives. And they used those weapons last night. Potentially in league with the cartels operating along our border. All of these actions were in gross violation of the core principles of American foreign policy, dating back more than 2 centuries. And not anymore. All the way back, it dated to the Monroe Doctrines. And the Monroe Doctrine is a big deal, but we've superseded it by a lot, by a real lot. They now call it the Donroe Document. I don't know.
No, nobody does. Nobody
Monroe
calls
Doctrine.
it that. only in your
We
feet,
sort of forgot about it. It
riddled
was very
fucking
important, but we
graves.
forgot about it. We don't forget about it anymore. Under our new national security strategy, American dominance in the Western Hemisphere will never be questioned again. Won't happen. So, just in concluding, for decades, other administrations have neglected or even contributed to these growing security threats in the Western Hemisphere. Under the Trump administration, we are reasserting American power in a very powerful way in our home region. And our home region is
By
very
slurring
different than
our
it
way
was
through a
just
press
a short while
conference?
ago. The
Is that
future will
the
be,
very
and we did
powerful
this in my
part that they're
first
supposed to
powerful
be scared
way
of?
in our home region. And our home region, our greater dominance right now. Everyone's coming back to us. The future will be determined by the ability to protect commerce and territory and resources that are core to national security. These are core to our national security. Just like tariffs are, they've made our country rich and they've made our national security strong, stronger than ever before. But these are the iron laws that have always determined global power. And we're going to keep it that way. We will secure our borders. We will stop the terrorists. We will crash the cartels, and we will defend our citizens against all threats, foreign and domestic. Other presidents may have lacked the courage or whatever to defend America, but I will never allow terrorists and criminals to operate with impunity against the United States. This extremely successful operation should serve as warning to anyone who would threaten American sovereignty or endanger American lives. Very importantly, the embargo on all Venezuelan oil remains in full effect. The American Armada remains poised in position, and the United States retains all military options until United States demands have been fully met and fully satisfied. All political and military figures in Venezuela should understand what happened to Maduro can happen to them, and it will happen to them if they aren't just, fair, even to their people. The dictator and terrorist, Maduro, is finally gone in Venezuela. People are free. They're free again. It's been a long time for them, but they're free. America is a safer nation. This morning, it's a prouder nation this morning because it didn't allow this horrible person and this country that was doing very bad things to us. It didn't allow it to happen. And
Let's
the
wait
Western
until China
Hemisphere is
enters the
right now
chat.
a much safer place to be. So I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to thank General Raisin Kane. He's a fantastic man. I've worked with a lot of generals. I worked with some I didn't like. I worked with some I didn't respect. I worked with some that just weren't good. But this guy is fantastic. I watched last night one of the most precise attacks on sovereignty. I mean, it was an attack for justice. And I'm
Attack
very
on
proud of him, and
sovereignty.
I'm very proud of
Does he
our
even know what he's
Secretary of
talking about?
War, Pete Hegseth, who I'm going to ask to say a few words. Thank you very much.
Can you explain how the U.S. will run Venezuela?
Well, thank you, Mr. President.
I
Finally,
can
a
smell the
commander-in-chief the
creatine.
world respects and the American people deserve. And as the president said, words can barely capture the bravery and the power and the precision of this historic operation, a massive joint military and law enforcement raid flawlessly executed by the greatest Americans our country has to offer. American warriors are second to none, the best in the world and the best of our country. What all of us witnessed last night was sheer guts and grit, gallantry, and glory of the American warrior. I'm simply humbled by such men. And I tip my hat to our chairman, Dan Raisin Kane, and all those Americans who stood watch last night. Our warriors are the elite of America. And again, President Trump has your back. No other country on planet Earth, and it's not even close, could pull this kind of operation off. And no other president has ever shown this kind of leadership, courage, and resolve, the most powerful combination the world has ever seen. As the president said, our adversaries remain on notice. America can project our will anywhere, anytime. The coordination, the stealth, the lethality, the precision, the very long arm of American justice, all on full display in the middle of the night. Nicolas Maduro had his chance, just like Iran had their chance, until they didn't and until he didn't. He effed around and he found out. President Trump is deadly serious about stopping the flow of gangs and violence to our country, deadly serious about stopping the flow of drugs and poison to our people, deadly serious about getting back the oil that was stolen from us, and deadly serious about reestablishing American deterrence and dominance in the Western Hemisphere. This is about the safety, security, freedom, and prosperity
of that oil
of the American people. This is America first. This is peace through strength. And the United States War Department is proud to help deliver it. Welcome to 2026. And under President Trump, America is back. I'd like to welcome now our chairman, Chairman Raising Cane, to give a few more details about the operation. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning. Last night, on the order of the President of the United States and in support of a request from the Department of Justice, as the President said, the United States military conducted an apprehension mission in Caracas, Venezuela, to bring to justice two indicted persons, Nicolas and Cecilia Maduro. This operation, known as Operation Absolute Resolve, was discreet, precise, and conducted during the darkest hours of January 2nd, and was the culmination of
during a
months of
full
planning
moon
and rehearsal,
and
an
very
operation
discreet,
that,
since
frankly,
there's video
only the United
all over the
States
place
military could undertake.
of
What
U.S.
I'd like to do
helicopters
this morning is talk you
in
through some of
Caracas.
the preparation and the details
Very discreet.
without compromising any of our tactics, techniques, and procedures. There is always a chance that we'll be tasked to do this type of mission again. Our interagency work began months ago and built on decades of experience of integrating complex air, ground, space, and maritime operations. While the past 2 decades have honed the skills of our special operations forces, this particular mission required every component of our joint force, with soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Guardians working in unison with our intelligence agency partners and law enforcement teammates in an unprecedented operation. We leveraged our unmatched intelligence capabilities and our years of experience in hunting terrorists. And we could not have done this mission without the incredible work by various intelligence agencies, including the CIA, NSA, and NGA. We watched, we waited, we prepared, we remained patient and professional. This mission was meticulously planned, drawing lessons from decades of missions over the last many years, many missions over these last many years. This was an audacious operation that only the United States could do. It required the utmost of precision and integration within our joint force. And the word integration does not explain the sheer complexity of such a mission. An extraction so precise, it involved more than 150 aircraft launching across the Western Hemisphere in close coordination, all coming together in time and place to layer effects for a single purpose: to get an interdiction force into downtown Caracas while maintaining the element of tactical surprise. Failure of one component of this well-oiled machine would have endangered the entire mission, and failure is never an option for America's joint force.
So is
Those
he
in the
saying
air
we,
over Caracas last night were willing
interdicted a
to give their
motorcade?
lives for those on the ground and in the helicopters. Let me talk a little bit about the preparation. After months of work by our intelligence teammates to find Maduro and understand how he moved, where he lived, where he traveled, what he ate, what he wore, what were his pets. In early December, our force was set pending a series of aligned events. Key was choosing the right day to minimize the potential for civilian harm and maximize the element of surprise and minimize the harm to the indicted personnel. So as the president said, they could be brought to justice. And as the president said earlier today, weather in Venezuela is always a factor this time of the year. And over the weeks through Christmas and New Year's, the men and women of the United States military sat ready, patiently waiting for the right triggers to be met and the president to order us into action. Last night, the weather broke just enough, clearing a path that only the most skilled aviators in the world could maneuver through. Ocean, mountain, low cloud ceilings. But when tasked with a mission, this organization does not quit. At 10:46 p.m. Eastern time last night, the president ordered the United States military to move forward with this mission. He said
Thanks,
to
Richard.
us, and we appreciate it, Mr. President, good luck and Godspeed. And those words were transmitted to the entire joint force. Over the course of the night, aircraft began launching from 20 different bases on land and sea across the Western Hemisphere. In total, more than 150 aircraft, bombers, fighters, intelligence, reconnaissance, surveillance, rotary wing were in the air last night. Thousands and thousands of hours
But
of
are the oil
experience
fields safe?
were airborne.
I think
Our
that's all
youngest
what
crew
we.
member
I
was
think
20,
that's really what we want to
and
know.
our
Are the oil
oldest crew
fields
member was
okay?
49. And there's
We
simply
really need to
no
know that
match for
point.
American military might.
And we still don't know. Do you still
As the
have
night
troops on the
began, the
ground?
helicopters
Our president
took off
just
with the
indicated we
extraction
control
force, which
Venezuela.
included law enforcement officers, and began their flight into Venezuela at 100 feet above the water. As they approached Venezuelan shores, the United States began layering different effects provided by Spacecom, Cybercom, and other members of the interagency to create a pathway. Overhead, those forces were protected by aircraft from the United States Marines, the United States Navy, the United States Air Force, and the Air National Guard. The force included twos.
Just to be clear here, he did start out his talking by saying we weren't going to reveal our capabilities. And now it sure seems like he's going through and revealing all our capabilities and everything that we did for this strike. Cyber, that's a new one.
The air defense systems in Venezuela, employing weapons to ensure the safe passage of the helicopters into the target area. The goal of our air component was, and always will be to protect the helicopters and the ground force and get them to the target and get them home. As the force crossed the last point of high terrain where they'd been hiding in the clutter, we assessed that we had maintained totally the element of surprise. As the helicopter force ingressed towards the objective at low level, we arrived at Maduro's compound at 1:01 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, or 2:01 a.m. Caracas local time, and the apprehension force descended into Maduro's compound and moved with speed, precision, and discipline towards their objective, and isolated the area to ensure the safety and security of the ground force while apprehending the indicted persons. On arrival into the target area, the helicopters came under fire, and they replied with that fire with overwhelming force in self-defense. One of our aircraft was hit, but remained flyable, and as the president said earlier today, all of our aircraft came home, and that aircraft remained flyable during the rest of the mission. As the operation unfolded at the compound, our air and ground intelligence teams provided real-time updates to the ground force, ensuring those forces could safely navigate the complex environment without unnecessary risk. The force remained protected by overhead tactical aviation. Maduro and his wife, both indicted, gave up and were taken into custody by the Department of Justice, assisted by our incredible U.S. military.
All right, so it's
with
clear that the
professionalism
justification they're going to
and
use
precision,
for the legality
with
on this
no
will be the
loss of
Second
US
Amendment,
life.
that the military was
After
just there to
securing the
support law
indicted
enforcement
persons, the
officials in
force
the
began
apprehension
to
of an
prep for
indicted
departure.
criminal.
Helicopters were called
Seems
in
pretty
to
standard.
exfiltrate the extraction force,
I'd have to check.
while
I think
fighter
that's
aircraft and
roughly the
remotely
same
piloted
justification
aircraft
used
provided
for,
overhead coverage and suppressive fire. There were multiple self-defense engagements as the force began to withdraw out of Venezuela. The force successfully exfiltrated and returned to their afloat launch bases, and the force was over the water at 3:29 a.m. Eastern Standard Time with indicted persons on board. And both Maduro and his wife were embarked aboard the USS Iwo Jima. In closing, what we've witnessed today is a powerful demonstration of America's joint force. We think, we develop, we train, we rehearse, we debrief, we rehearse again and again, not to get it right, but to ensure that we cannot get it wrong. Our jobs are to integrate combat power so when the order comes, we can deliver overwhelming force at the time and the place of our choosing against any foe anywhere in the world. I am immensely proud today of our joint force and filled with gratitude to represent them here today. There is simply no mission too difficult for these incredible professionals and the families that stand by them and support them. As we stand here this morning, our forces remain in the region at a high state of readiness, prepared to project power, defend themselves, and our interests in the region. This operation is a testament to the dedication and unwavering commitment to justice and our resolve to hold accountable those
yes, are the oil fields okay?
And stability. In closing, I want to express my heartfelt gratitude to the brave men and women who executed this mission. Their courage and tireless commitment to our nation are what makes us strong. Thank you, Mr. Secretary, and thank you, Mr. President.
Rubio up next. Yep.
Well, I don't have much to add to what you've heard now, other than the following points. Nicolas Maduro was indicted in 2020 in the United States. He is not the legitimate president of Venezuela. That's not just us saying
That's
it.
all true.
The first Trump administration.
Yeah, there's nothing.
The Biden
Maduro is an
administration,
awful
the
fucking
second
human
Trump
being. He
administration,
just
none of
is.
those three recognize
there's
him.
no
He's not
regime
recognized by the
change
European
and
Union and
removal
multiple
of
countries
Maduro
around
has
the world.
been
He is a
U.S. foreign
fugitive of
policy
American justice with a $50 million reward, which I guess we saved $50 million. And
Make sure.
yeah, exactly. But
Don't let anybody claim it. Nobody deserves it but us.
But I want to be clear about one thing. Nicolas Maduro had multiple opportunities to avoid this. He was provided multiple very, very, very generous offers and chose instead to act like a wild man, chose instead to play around. And the result is what we saw tonight. The other message here is the following. You have a guy, like many people around the world, they like to play games. You have a guy who decides he's going to invite Iran into his country, is going to, do the confiscation of American oil companies, is going to flood our country with gang members, is going to take Americans prisoner and try to hold them
of
hostage
U.S.
and trade them like he was able to
oil,
do with the Biden administration.
I mean,
basically
nationalization of the
time,
Venezuelan oil industry
happen.
happened a long time
ago. And I
ago.
hope what people now understand is that we have a president. The 47th president of the United States is not a game player. When he tells you that he's going to do something, when tells you he's going to address a problem, he means it. He actions it. I can tell you,
watch out, Greenland.
Now for 14, 15 years, been around it. Everybody talks. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. When I get there, we're going to do this. We're going to take. This is a president of action. Like, I don't understand yet how they haven't figured this out. And now, if you don't know, now you know, because this is the way it's going to play out. And I think people need to understand that this is not a president that just talks and does letters and press conferences. And, if he says he's serious about something, he means it. And this is something that was a direct threat to the national interest of the United States. And the president addressed it. There's a president of peace, by the way. I told you what I just said earlier. This guy had multiple opportunities to find his way somewhere else and figure out another. He could have been living somewhere else right now, very happy, but instead he wanted to play big boy. And so now, he's got other sets of problems on his hands. And but I think the message here should be for the world. Look, the
Has
president
she
doesn't go out looking
weighed in
for
on
people
this
to pick
yet?
fights with.
Because I'm pretty sure the
generally wants
biggest
to get
boy
along
in the
with
room
everybody.
right now is going to be China.
Well, talk and meet with anybody, but don't play games. Don't play games with this president's in office, because it's not going to turn out well. And so I hope that I guess that lesson was learned last night, and we hope it'll be instructive moving forward.
Is that a message for Cuba? Mr. President.
Mr. President, Mr. President,
Mr. President.
you said that the U.S. is going to run Venezuela. So who's in power right now?
Well, we're going to be running it with a group, and we're going to make sure it's run properly. We're going to rebuild the oil infrastructure.
What group?
Billions of dollars. It'll be paid for by the oil companies directly. They will be
Oh,
reimbursed for
I know.
what they're
There you
doing, but that's going to be
That's
paid.
smart. That's actually
And
smart.
we're going to get the oil flowing the way it should be. As you know, it was just a minor flow. It was actually a minor flow for what they have, but we're going to run it properly, and we're going to make sure the people of
Refinery
Venezuela
capacity.
are taken care of. We're going to make sure the people that were forced out of Venezuela by this thug are also taken care of.
Mr.
President, does the U.S. running the country mean that U.S. troops will be on the ground? How will that work?
Well, you know, they always say boots on the ground. Oh, so we're not afraid of boots on the ground if we have to have. We had boots on the ground last night at a very high level, actually. We're not afraid of it. We don't mind saying it, but we're going to make sure that that country is run properly. We're not doing this in vain. This is a very dangerous attack. This is an attack that could have gone very, very badly. Could have gone very badly. We could have lost a lot of people last night. We could have lost a lot of dignity. We could have lost a lot of equipment. The equipment is less important, but we could have lost a lot. And we're going to make sure that this is proper. We're there now. We're ready to go again if we have to. We're going to run the country right. It's going to be run very
I make the same
judiciously, very fairly. It's going to make a lot of money. We're going to give money to the people. We're going to reimburse people that were taken advantage of. We're going to take care of everybody. It's very important. We couldn't let them get away with it. You know, they stole our oil. We built that whole industry there, and they just took it over like we were nothing. And we had a president that decided not to do anything about it. So we did something about it. We're late, but we did something about it. Yeah, please.
We built the Saudi Arabian oil fields. We're
mechanism by which you're going to run the country? Are you going to designate a U.S. official to coordinate?
It's all being done right now. We're designating people. We're talking to people. We're designating various people, and we're going to let you know who those people are.
That would run Venezuela.
Well, it's largely going to be for a period of time. The people that are standing right behind me, we're going to be running it. We're going to be bringing it back. It's a dead. You know, I talk about a dead country. A year and a half ago, we were a dead country. Now we're the hottest country anywhere in the world.
We just annex another country.
A country doing better than any country anywhere in the world.
I mean, if you watch this video later on,
leadership.
Did we
Venezuela
just
has
fucking annex
a lot of bad people in there, a lot of bad people that shouldn't be leading. We're not going to take a chance that one of those people take over for Maduro. So you can look at, and others, we have fantastic people, including people in the military. So we're going to have a group of people running it until such time as it can be put back on track, make a lot of money for the people, give people a great way of life, and also reimbursement for people in our country that were forced out of Venezuela.
Rubio would be.
You said earlier today that you weren't going to back Machado to come back and be the opposition leader in your Fox and Friends interview. And then you also mentioned the vice president of Venezuela. Are you going to work with the vice president of Venezuela, or how do you foresee the relationship going?
I understand she was just sworn in, but she was, as you know, picked by Maduro. So Marco's working on that directly. He just had a conversation with her, and she's essentially willing to do what we think is necessary to make Venezuela great again. Very simple.
Mr. President, Colombian President Gustavo Petro, a couple weeks ago, he said he's got to watch his ass. And today he said he's not concerned about anything happening to him in the aftermath of this operation. So just what your message is about that.
Well, he has cocaine mills. He has factories where he makes cocaine. And yeah, I think I stick by my first statement. He's making cocaine. They're sending it into the United States. So he does have to watch his ass.
Mr. President, did you notify any members of Congress in advance?
Marco, do you want to talk about that? Because you were involved.
Sure. We call members of Congress immediately after. This was not the kind of mission that you can do congressional notification on. It was a trigger-based mission in which conditions had to be met night after night. We watched and monitored that for a number of days. So it's just simply not the kind of mission you can call people and say, hey, we may do this at some point in the next 15 days. Incorrect. But it's largely a law enforcement function. Remember, at the end of the day, at its core, this was an arrest of 2 indicted fugitives of American justice, and the Department of War supported the Department of Justice in that job. Now, there are broader policy implications here, but it's just not the kind of mission that you can pre-notify because it endangers the mission.
Plus, if I could add one thing to that, Congress has a tendency to leak. This would not be good. If they leaked, General, I think it would have been maybe a very different result. But I have to say, they knew we were coming at some point, We had a lot of ships out there. They sort of knew we were coming. We went there. But Congress will leak, and we don't want leakers.
why.
You were one of the only people to watch this all play out live. What was Maduro doing when the U.S. forces entered what I assume would be his home? And also, was there any point where the U.S. was considering if Maduro pushed back or resisted killing Maduro?
It could have happened. It could have happened. He was trying to get into a safe place. You know what a safe place is, all steel. And he wasn't able to make it to the door because our guys were so fast. They went through the opposition so fast. And there was a lot of opposition. You know, people were wondering, do we get them by surprise? Sort of surprised, but they were waiting for something. It was a lot of opposition. There was a lot of gunfire. You saw some of it today. But he was trying to get to a safe place, which wasn't safe because we would have had the door blown up in about 47 seconds, they say on average. Regardless of how thick the steel was. It was a very thick door. It was a very heavy door, but he was unable to get to that door. He made it to the door. He was unable to close it. Go ahead, finish.
Where is Maduro going to be in the time being right now? Do you know his exact
Well,
whereabouts?
eventually, ultimately, in the near future, he's going to be brought to New York.
And where is he going to be held? Where is he going to be held in New York? Do you know?
That's going to be up to the officials that do these things.
Mr. President, the U.S. has something of a mixed track record of ousting dictators without necessarily a plan for what comes afterwards.
Not with
Did
me,
that
though.
weigh on your decision?
Well, that's when we had different presidents, but with me, that's not true. With me, we've had a perfect track record of winning. We win a lot, and we win. If you look at Soleimani, you look at al-Baghdadi, you look at the Midnight Hammer. Midnight Hammer was incredible. Right now, you wouldn't have peace in the Middle East. We have essentially peace in the Middle East because of that. If we weren't successful with Midnight Hammer, you wouldn't have peace in the Middle East. So, with me, you've had a lot of victory. You've had only victories. You've had no losses. Yeah.
President, can you? How long do you expect the U.S. to run Venezuela, and how soon do you want the Venezuelan people to hold elections?
So I'd like to do it quickly, but it takes a period of time. You know, we're rebuilding. We have to rebuild their whole infrastructure. The infrastructure is rotted.
How are
It's
the oil
actually very
fields?
dangerous. It's blow up territory. Oil is very dangerous. It's a very dangerous thing to take out of the ground. Can kill a lot of people. It has killed a lot of people doing just that. The infrastructure is old. It's rotted. Much of it is stuff that we put there 25 years ago, and we're going to be replacing it. And we're going to take a lot of money out so that we can take care of the country. Yeah.
Are you saying that Secretary Rubio and
Mr. President, China, Russia, and Iran have interests in Venezuela. How does this operation affect your relationships with them when it comes to the oil and drugs?
And Russia, Russia when we get things straightened out. But in terms of other countries that want oil, we're in the oil business. We're going to sell it to them. We're not going to say we're not going to give it to them. In other words, we'll be selling oil probably in much larger doses because they couldn't produce very much because their infrastructure was so bad. So we'll be selling large amounts of oil to other countries.
I'm sure
many
China's
of whom
gonna have
are
something to
using
say
it
about
now.
that.
But I would say many more will come.
are you saying, Mr. President, are you saying that, Mr. President, are you saying that? Oh,
Mr. President, thank you. What is your message to the people of Venezuela today? Of course, the civilian population specifically, they have a lot of questions. What is your message to the people of
That
Venezuela?
you're going to have peace, justice. You're going to have some of the riches that you should have had for a long period of time. It was stolen from you. But you're going to have peace and you're going to have safety. You're going to have justice. You're going to have a country. You're going to have a real country. You're going to have potentially a great country. You know, if you go back 20 years, maybe even a little longer ago, that was a great country. And they destroyed it. Remember, I said that if we lose this election, the United States will be Venezuela on steroids. That's what would have happened. Had we lost the election, the 2024 election, we suffered so badly. When you look at the border from 2020, what they did, what Joe Biden administration did to our country should never be forgotten. But if we had to go through another year of that, we would be exactly where Venezuela was in terms of, I used to say, if they win, we're going to be Venezuela on steroids. And that's what would have happened.
President, thank you. Are you saying that Secretary Hegseth and Rubio are going to be running Venezuela, and will you be sending in U.S. military
They're going
troops
to be a
to provide?
team that's working with the people of Venezuela to make sure that we have Venezuela right. Because for us to just leave, who's going to take over? I mean, there is nobody to take over. You have a vice president who's been appointed by Maduro. And right now she's the vice president, and she's, I guess, the president. She was sworn as president just a little while ago. She had a long conversation with Marco, and she said, "We'll do whatever you need." I think she was quite gracious, but she really doesn't have a choice. We're going to have this done right. We're not going to just do this with Maduro, then leave like everybody else, leave and say, let it go to hell. If we just left, it has zero chance of ever coming back. We'll run it properly. We'll run it professionally. We'll have the greatest oil companies in the world go in and invest billions and billions of dollars and take out money, use that money in Venezuela. And the biggest beneficiary are going to be the people of Venezuela. And also, I can't stress this strongly enough, the people that got thrown out of Venezuela that are now in the United States, and frankly, some want to stay and some probably want to go back. Yeah.
What is being done to protect Americans in the country, and were any of the detained Americans?
Well, right now they're very protected because nobody's going to mess with us. They're very protected. The people of, and we let them know that you better not touch one of them.
Are you concerned that bad elements of the Maduro regime will remain in place?
Well, we know who they are. We're on them, and they're acting much differently now than they would have acted 2 days ago. Okay, wait, behind you, please.
Mr. President, why is running a country in South America America first?
Well, I think it is because we want to surround ourselves with good neighbors. We want to surround ourselves with stability. We want to surround ourselves with energy. We have tremendous energy in that country. It's very important that we protect it. We need that for ourselves. We need that for the world. And we want to make sure we can protect it. Yes, sir. Please, go ahead.
Is there a message here for Cuba and Diaz-Canel?
Well, Cuba is an interesting case. Cuba is, not doing very well right now. That system has not been a very good one for Cuba. The people there have suffered for many, many years. And I think Cuba is going to be something we'll end up talking about because Cuba is a failing nation right now, very badly failing nation. And we want to help the people. It's very similar in the sense that we want to help the people in Cuba, but we want to also help the people that were forced out of Cuba and living in this country. Do you want to say something about that, Marco, please?
Well, I mean, I just gave you a statement a few minutes ago about, when the president speaks, you should take him seriously. So suffice it to say, Cuba is a disaster. It's run by incompetent, senile men, and in some cases, not senile, but incompetent nonetheless. It has no economy. It's in total collapse. And by the way, they were, all of the guards that helped protect Maduro, this is well known, their whole spy agency, all that were full of Cubans. I mean, it's amazing. This poor island took over Venezuela in some cases. One of the biggest problems the Venezuelans have is they have to declare independence from Cuba that tried to basically colonize it from a security standpoint. So, yeah, look, if I lived in Havana and I was in the government, I'd be concerned, at least a little bit.
Putting up the oil flow to Cuba from Venezuela?
Well, the president already announced a week ago that anything that's sanctioned oil, it's not going to be allowed to get there. So that's an pre-existing.
Mr. President.
All right, so the
administration
infighting on Cuba will be interesting.
Aware of the location of opposition leader Machado, and have you been in contact with her?
No, we haven't. No, we haven't.
Mr. President,
Do you have any hesitations about Machado?
Mr. President, on Monday.
Oh, I think it would be very tough for her to be the leader. She doesn't have the support within or the respect within the country. She's a very nice woman, but she doesn't have the respect. To be
Mr. President, is it possible that the U.S. ends up administrating Venezuela
I guess Cuba
for years?
Is
well,
it won't
cost us anything because the money coming out of the ground is very substantial. So it's not going to cost us anything.
Casinos and
we
golf
will.
resorts.
We want safety there. We want to be surrounded by countries that aren't housing all of our enemies all over the world. That's what was happening, and you don't want to have that. But we're going to be rebuilding, and we're not spending money. The oil companies are going to go in. They're going to spend money. We're going to take back the oil that, frankly, we should have taken back a long time ago. A lot of money is coming out of the ground. We're going to get reimbursed for all of that. We're going to get reimbursed for everything that we spend. So it's going to be a very important. This is a very big evening that took place last night.
Okay, so,
we have to be surrounded by safe,
like
secure
U.S. is going back
and
to
we
more
also
of a
have to have
foreign
energy.
policy
Very important. We have to have energy that's real energy,
well,
not where they're getting 4% and 5% of the energy out of the ground. You take a look. It was such a disaster.
Mute it.
With
So, if you remember, plantation wars and the Dole Wars in the 1900s is sort of why, for the most part, the U.S. stays hands off in Central South America. It's literally where the term banana republics come from. It's Dole plantation farms and over just bananas, essentially. I'm surprised at Cuba, mainly because it's well known that they're sugar businessmen and that donate heavily to Donald Trump. That's why the push for real sugar and Coca-Cola. Cuba would obviously eat into those interests, but at the same time, casinos, golf resorts, the Cuban people, Marielitos and other Cuban refugees and Cuban are generally a very reliable voting segment for the Republican Party. So it's not very surprising here. I mean, if we're going to go off on foreign adventures, why not? I mean, we just annexed Venezuela, essentially, and we're going to steal their oil. I'm sure China is going to have something to say about it, but that will come later. They're probably going to use the same logic that we just did on Venezuela with Taiwan. It would be my guess. I don't think they're going to try and extract oil concessions or anything like that from Trump administration. I think they're just going to go straight for Taiwan, which is, I mean, semiconductor chips are the new oil. Taiwan is essentially the provider for most of it. And it seems pretty silly for us to jeopardize our semiconductor supply in exchange for some really dirty oil that can only be processed a couple places. But sure, why not? It's clear that we are going to be administering Venezuela for a while as we extract everything, all value that we can out of there. I'm sure a lot of the money that gets extracted from there is going to go to supporters. I wonder how long it's going to be before SpaceX gets a contract. I'm probably, Palantir is probably already being paid for Venezuela. I'm going to take it off me.
Spoke about Maduro.
Are you mad at him right now? I mean, there's this
I'm not
intelligence.
thrilled with Putin. I'm not thrilled with Putin. He's killing too many people.
Was that
I
intelligence?
thought that would be so. I settled 8 1/4 war. You know what the 1/4 was? Thailand and Cambodia. I did it again. They broke out, and I did it in about 5 hours, and I settled it. I'm giving myself 1/4, so I'm up to now 8 1/4. I settled it out there. A pretty bad.
Okay, so we're off Cuba now. We're talking about Putin. And I'm no expert on Cuba. I just speculate because of sugar that they were likely going to give Cuba a miss because Cuba doesn't really have many doesn't really have any natural resources other than it's very close to Florida. He does do casino. I mean, Cuba was the Las Vegas before Las Vegas. So it makes a certain amount of sense that Cuba might be there because, you know, casinos, golf resorts, and those things are his jam. The Venezuela thing has always been a Marco Rubio kind of project. I mentioned that earlier. So this is kind of the culmination of Rubio's thing in Congress for a very long time. So that's cool. But this is all well and good. Cuba, I don't think at this point, I don't really think if we did anything with Cuba, I really don't think I mean, on an international level, I really just don't think anyone would care. Russia kind of severed ties. I don't think China doesn't really, again, Cuba really doesn't have much, period. I mean, it's really not, there's no natural resources. It doesn't have any lithium. It's got no rare earth metals. Its importance as kind of like a shipping hub or something like that is way back in the day. I think for the most part, internationally, most people wouldn't care if we did something with Cuba. I think it's always been kind of assumed at some point we would do something with it. Now, why we're risking all this, China and Taiwan, for Venezuela, I don't really know. Maduro's an awful motherfucker. He just is. He's a terrible person. It is U.S. foreign policy that we get rid of him, but this seems more of an annexation of Venezuela than it does regime change and getting rid of Maduro. It'll be interesting to see who's going to be running Venezuela, because it sounds like we are essentially taking it over. What that means for us as a country, I mean, I don't know. I think it seems pretty foolish. To me, it really does seem rather foolish to jeopardize Taiwan and China doing some of the same things with Taiwan. Seems silly to me to risk that potentiality for some really dirty oil from Venezuela that can only be refined in like 2 refineries. That's why there's not much oil coming from Venezuela, is just because the refinery capacity isn't there. Clearly, this is about oil. I mean, that's just, it has nothing to, I mean, big, beautiful oil. The idea that he is not opposed to troops on the ground is fun. Very fun. Let's see what the BBC has to say.
The special operation that the U.S. carried out in arresting Nicolas Maduro in his secured compound in Caracas overnight. He was asked who would run the country, and he referred to the people standing behind me. He said they would be part of a team. Those people, including the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, the chairman of the
The Brits will know better than anybody else how colonial or military governorship or temporary governorship works. The money that is going to go into people's hands due to administering Venezuela is going to be astronomical. And here's the fun part. It's not US based funds. So it's all going to be run through the Venezuelan treasury, and it's going to be a stupid amount of money. Just mind blowing how much money they're going to extract from Venezuela. It's going to be, like I said, I would imagine that some sort of Tesla SpaceX contract is going to be, it's going to be announced. Palantir and Peter Thiel, they're probably already, they're probably already getting paid from this. A few others I can think of. I mean, obviously, oil companies are going to be very much involved. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Cuba, yeah, definitely. Yeah, Cuba's probably next up, because one of his biggest supporters would be definitely want Cuba and casinos there. So awesome. We got that going for us, which is nice. And again, I think Cuba's going to be Cuba. I didn't think it was going, and I didn't think anything would happen to Cuba because of sugar and everything. But actually, come to think of it, it does make a certain amount of sense. It could be very easily accomplished. The forces are already in the area. And again, there will be very little international outcry on Cuba. China won't give a shit. Russia won't. Russia cut ties there a long time ago. So it makes a certain amount of sense. Again, going back to Venezuela, the vice president that got sworn in, I'm pretty sure had indicated they were going to fight, but that is kind of laughable, honestly. Like, what are you going to do? Ground war? Invade the United States? You have to get through Mexico first. Mexico's not going to let you through. And I did definitely in that press conference hear a strong indicator that we are going to do something in Mexico. What that is, I don't know, but it's that same type of rhetoric is how this Venezuela stuff started, and they're definitely starting it up with Mexico. So I anticipate that just like with Venezuela, there will be a ramp up. It started with we were just joking to, oh, we're bombing cartels in Mexico. Isn't that nice? He went off a huge tangent about crime in the United States, which was pointless. I think somebody finally wrangled him in. But all in all, we really didn't learn much. Obviously, there will be some type of colonial administrator of Venezuela. I think it sounds like we are going to offer some type of relocation to any Venezuelans that want to return. Is something I caught in there. Rubio, the big thing that I think probably Congress would have to, so they're clearly using some type of Manuel Noriega kind of justification for doing this, based on the Second Amendment and the idea that they did not need to inform anybody in Congress because it was time sensitive. So there's specific actual guidelines for that. And Congress actually absolutely has to be informed. So, and Rubio knows that. He was a senator. I think he was actually part of the Gang of Eight at one time. I would have to look that up, but I'm pretty sure Marco Rubio was a member of that Gang of Eight that has to be notified for secret black ops or time-sensitive kind of military activities, such as this. So Marco Rubio should damn well know that the Gang of Eight can be notified at any time of day. They can go into skiffs. They can be notified hours before the strike takes place, but they need to be notified so that they can give their approval. That's why that whole thing is set up that way. Is that so time sensitive and critical kind of military activities can get congressional approval without it going through to the whole Congress, and there be a chance for leaks or for the mission to be revealed or secrecy to be compromised. So I think Rubio is definitely lying his ass off on that one. He is. He just is. There is an apparatus specifically designed for this type of mission, this type of activity to get congressional approval. And the idea that he says they didn't need to is complete bullshit. So that's the biggest thing on this. Now, I know there's going to be a lot of people that are wringing their hands that are going to go batshit about this. And did they need congressional approval? Yes. And there was a specific apparatus and procedure put in place specifically for that, which they claimed they didn't need to do. Again, Marco Rubio should know better. He was lying his ass off. That being said, Maduro is an awful guy. I mean, if they had to pick a target in order to do this to, I mean, it's sort of a perfect target for this because nobody's going to weep or cry for Maduro. And I absolutely believe in Hegseth and Rubio when they say that Maduro was given every opportunity to GTFO and live the rest of his life in luxury, and he messed around. I do believe that because that is, let's face it, that's what the U.S. does. I mean, if someone is inconvenient and we want them to leave, we offer them a stupid amount of money and a life of luxury. The Iranian dictator, who was there before Khomeini, I mean, same type of deal. He's lived his entire life in luxury, and so have his family members. Now, Iran is an entirely different thing that's going on right now. I hope we don't get involved in there, but there again, Donald Trump is feeling emboldened and decided to tweet out something about being locked and loaded for Iran. Oh, thank you, chat. Yeah. So Rubio does absolutely fucking know better. He was lying his ass off. And let's be honest, that was a convincing lie. I mean, half the time Rubio looks like his soul has left his body. He's so miserable. But, I mean, that diminutive little fucker can certainly get up on a stage and lie his ass off. I should get bonus points for the term diminutive, frankly. I mean, the dude is short. I mean, he is fucking short. What? I'm not sure what else to say. I mean, the danger I feel is like, yeah, they go with the success. They're going to get a shit ton of money from the oil in Venezuela. A lot of these assholes are going to be massively enriched because we know that money is going to be grifted off into the fucking Magasphere or wherever. They could easily do the same thing with Iran and its oil. What's stopping them at this point? I should say, China and us and just a handful of countries utilize Venezuelan oil because of what I keep repeating throughout this live stream is that Venezuelan oil is very, very dirty. It's got a lot of contaminants in it. Previous to China building a refinery specifically for Venezuelan oil, the only place to refine it was in the United States. So even though they nationalized the oil fields from U.S. companies, the only place they could refine it was still the United States. So we still controlled their oil. Didn't matter. We got it. That's specifically when Donald Trump's talking about why, I'm the only U.S. president to take action and everything. And, other presidents didn't do it and they stole all this money from us. It's kind of bullshit because we got the oil anyway. Like it was one along the lines of those, like, all right, who gives a shit? We still get the oil. Like you can't refine it anywhere else. So good job. You got the oil fields. It'll come to us anyway. The big equation that had changed, and I actually recently found this out because this is one of those things I've just known about for decades, is China actually has built an entire refinery, campus specifically to handle Venezuelan oil. So that would be part of the equation. I think that changed and has led to these actions. Now, do we really want to fuck with China for some Venezuelan oil? I mean, personally, I don't think it's worth it since China has Taiwan in its sights, and semiconductor chips are way more important to our economy and the global economy than some fucking Venezuelan oil. I mean, fuck, who gives a shit? Lithium. Again, if you follow any type of science and technology, you'll know lithium is only important vis-a-vis batteries and battery chemistry. And yes, they are making lithium, recycling the lithium. They're changing battery chemistries to make lithium more efficient. But there is another battery chemistry that is maturing. Some of the first commercial battery packs on it have been released, and that is sodium ion, just salt. We in the United States are not doing much on that because we have so much invested in the lithium infrastructure. China is actually doing a lot with sodium ion. So is the European Union. And one of the benefits of sodium ion is it's not as battery dense as lithium ion, but sodium ion does not have the potential for thermal runaway. So a sodium ion battery is not just a bomb on wheels, whereas lithium ion, for the most part, is. So lithium, the idea that lithium, like strategic metals and lithium, the idea that that's necessary is, I mean, in 5 years, it'll probably be iron air or sodium ion. There's multiple different battery chemistries that people are developing and are maturing to production scale and manufacturing scale that eliminate the need for lithium, because lithium is a rare problematic metal. Now, say that lithium is not rare. I think the difficulty in mining lithium is the fact that it's diffuse. So lithium is kind of fuck all everywhere. There's lithium all over the place. The problem is it's not concentrated lithium. You have to process a large amount of material in earth in order to get enough lithium, because it's so dispersed. That's the problem with lithium. So again, this is a land and mineral grab. It's a natural resource grab. I think it's great that Maduro is gone. Again, Maduro is an awful human being. There's no crying for Maduro anywhere. I think the biggest thing is, one, do the American people have the will, or do they even want to have an occupation force in Venezuela for Venezuelan oil? I highly doubt that. I think this is going to be a very unpopular decision, depending on how it turns out. If this is more along the lines of, we took out Maduro, we're buying off the current government, like the government that's coming in, and we will administrate it through proxies, through the State Department and everything, but no boots on the ground, no military occupation force, none of that, then I think the American people are going to live with it, and we'll be fine with it, because Maduro went away, and it'll be something that won't hit the headlines. It'll be something that people won't talk about, other than as part of the corruption endemic to the Trump administration. I mean, where corruption is rampant. If it gets kinetic, if there's troops on the ground and occupying force vis-a-vis Iraq or Afghanistan, this will be a very, very, very unpopular decision. Particularly because I guarantee it right now, the American people are not going to see much benefit from this. We're not going to really get lower. Our gas prices are not going to go down. Lithium prices are not going to go down. The only people that are going to benefit from this are some companies that are tied to the administration. That's it. And there's a lot of downside for the American people, a lot, particularly as other nations react to this kind of realpolitik, neo-colonialism, economic colonialism kind of actions from the United States. There will be a reaction, absolutely, 100%. China cannot afford to let this go unanswered to any extent. And I think it is foolish of the United States to underestimate China. They're making great strides in alternative energy. Their dependence on oil is actually going down at the same time that ours is going up. They're developing green energy. They're bringing on solar plants and wind facilities way faster than anything we've ever done. They are adjusting for their demographic time bomb and lack of people by increasing automation and dark factories and dark ports where robotics handle all port functions and manufacturing functions. So it would probably not do us well to pick a fight with China that's not necessary. I don't like China. Don't get me wrong. I'm not like a rah-rah China is awesome. I think there's awful things with China. China is a China is an authoritarian dictatorship. the people are essentially slaves. But again, it's one of those contexts where, like, when you look at history, you got to be very careful not to put our values on something else. You know, we might say, oh, they only make $10 a day. Right, but $10 a day there is acceptable. It might be. I'm just spitballing on that. It's not hard truth. But it's just a warning of, we can't look at another society through the lens of ours, and what is acceptable to us is not acceptable, might be totally, what is not acceptable to us might be totally acceptable in somebody else's culture. That being said, you know, there are things in our culture that are unacceptable. And when people come here, they should give us the same courtesy and adopt to our customs and what we find acceptable, and not what is acceptable in the country and the culture that they come from. Now, all that is a long way of saying, not sure that this was something that was necessary or that needed to be done or that was even advisable. I think the risks far outweigh the benefits. I do think this is a good thing for the Venezuelan people. I will just say that this will wind up being good for the Venezuelan people for values of good. We are absolutely going to steal the fucking shit out of that country. We are going to extract money and resources and steal everything that isn't tied down. Bet. We are absolutely going to do that. We are going to thieve the shit out of that country. And just, yeah, we are. That's just going to happen. That is just what is going to happen. That is why we did this. We did this for the oil, but all the other fun stuff too. But the sad thing is, even with all the thievery that we are going to do, the Venezuelan people will be better off. That's the fuck all of it. Could they be even better off? Sure, but they're still going to be better off than they are now, even with us stealing everything that isn't tied down. So I would say this is historic. This really does mark a new era in global international relations. A neocolonialism, if you will. And however that colonialism expresses itself, be it occupational, be it economic, be it cultural, a new kind of geopolitics has begun. And it looks a lot like old geopolitics from the 1880s to 1920s, maybe a little bit of the British Raj thrown in there for the mix. But we will see. And honestly, if Don Roe doctrine becomes a thing, I'm not going to start drinking again, but it will certainly, I will need something. I will need some form of sedation to not throw and break shit if Don Roe doctrine becomes a thing, because nobody is saying that. I hate it when he says that. Everybody is saying that. No, when he says that, that means nobody is fucking saying that. He'd just like it to become a thing. Anyway, we will see. I'm sure there's more news going to come up as the rest of the world responds to what is a new era in United States international relations. Thanks for spending some time with me and listening to Donald Trump's press conference. Please hit like and subscribe. I really do appreciate it. And if you're watching this later and you have any questions, please drop a comment. Hit the like, hit subscribe, and we're going to enter this brave new world together. Bye, everyone.